Hello everyone, hello traders. Welcome back to the channel. I know it's been a while. I have been a very busy man recently, and well, I'm back. And today I'm not going to be doing a market analysis video, but rather I'm going to be giving you something a little more tangible, something that I hope that you can learn from, and that is going through one of my trades in detail from Friday. And I hope that this really teaches you something about how a professional trader must approach trading. Okay, how they must come into the morning and treat trading in order to be consistent over time. It's really something that not a lot of people talk about. They give very vague explanations about. They say, oh, well, you need to be consistent, you got to be disciplined, and that doesn't really help anybody. So I'm hoping that this can give some tangible things that you can hold on to and carry forward in your trading. So the trade that I'm going to go over is Intel. I was trading Intel on Friday because they had earnings and because they had a large gap down. And it all starts, guys, in the pre-market, okay? Any trade that you're going to take every day, it needs to be thought over and planned in the pre-market, okay? And I'm going to go ahead and pull up my pre-market notes here, and this is TraderView. This is a very nice website. It's not too expensive if you wish to get this. It is free if you're just trading shares up to a certain amount of trades per month. Anyways, it's a great tool. And so here's my Intel trade. I closed $114. I traded options on it. But here, let's zone in on the pre-market notes, guys. This is what I'm thinking before the market ever opens. I'm looking at the SPY. I'm looking at the market because that can tell me what kind of setups I should be looking for on the stocks I'm trying to trade. SPY is continuing to show weakness into the morning. We've created a lower high at a very important level. And then here's the key here, guys, is that 319 to 319.5 must be defended by bulls. Let's go and look at why that might be true. 319 to 319.5, right? That's going to come in right here. Why is that important? Because we're in an uptrend, right? So we're automatically favoring that bulls are going to come in, and there's not going to be a huge shift of character, and there's going to be some sort of dip buy at major supports. This is a major support. Why? Because this was a major pivot high, and we've broken that pivot high. And whenever something breaks out of an important area, the first thing you want to do is look at where the stock was accumulated before the breakout, okay? So the stock, you can clearly see, was cleanly accumulated at about 319, 319.5 for 3 days prior, right? And then it breaks out on the fourth day. So when a stock, when any type of instrument comes back to test an area like this, chances are on your first try, you're going to get a solid bounce, if not a huge bounce over multiple days. That's not always going to happen, but you're going to get something 90% of the time. So that's the first thing I'm looking at, okay? That's the first thing in my pre-market notes. And so that takes me into this Intel trade expecting some sort of bounce as long as I can find a good area where Intel can bounce. So looking at Intel in the pre-market, it dropped 53.5, which is a pretty good support during the pre-market. After this, there was nothing but selling. There was aggressive selling in the pre-market. So what does that mean? That's a breakdown area. So 53.5, there's longs trapped in the pre-market at 53.5. So I want to look for a potential short trade if Intel is popping up to 53.5, okay? 50 to 52 has a lot of buyers now. That's a pretty simple I'm just looking at the daily chart on Intel, and you can even see it here. There's plenty of buyers in here, right? Plenty of buyers, and they weren't really showing themselves in the pre-market, and I noted that. And so what I was looking at is on a daily chart, similar to the SPY chart we just looked at. I want to see where's a good breakout area, right? Where have shorts been trapped? Not that there's still shorts holding from down here, but it still applies. You think about it like that. And the shorts were trapped all in here, right? So we got below 50, and you can see the long wicks shorting around the 50 area. And then what happens? We gap over this area, and then we start holding. And this unfilled gap, it's an unfilled gap. We haven't come back to fill it. And so this is ideally where my risk is. This is the closest risk I want to have if we're moving below. And so this gap is at 49.58. So I know if we're holding below 49.58 on an intraday basis, I want to be out of this trade. So that's my risk. And I knew it could potentially bounce higher, so I wanted to watch around 51.22, where we kind of based here a lot. But I knew this was really my best risk. This is where I would find the best potential, because markets like to come back and test breakout areas. It's very simple. They like to come back and test breakdown areas, and they 90% of the time will see a reaction at that area. So when SPY is coming into its breakout area, and Intel's coming into a breakout area, and Intel clearly has a huge overreaction on their news, I know that it's likely that they're going to get some sort of bounce with the market. Not always, but I know that there's a higher probability, and so I put my focus into this trade in the morning. Okay, so that's what I was looking at. Here's the 53.5 level. You can see that dropped, and then it was kind of just boom, straight selling. We held it for about an hour and a half here, and then boom, we dropped it, and it was just petering out, and we found a little bit of support, which later turned resistance around 52. Okay, so 52 seemed to be important, and you can see that was about where we opened, and then immediately dropped from. Okay, so let's pull up the journal again, and I'm going to bring you down and just talk about how I traded this and maybe what I could have done better, because there's many things I could have done better, and that's an important thing to realize when you're taking trades. And one great thing about this Trader View, about journaling in general, you don't have to use this, but whether it's a written notebook, whatever it is, you can point out the things that you need work on. You can create weekly, monthly goals for yourself and give yourself a grade each day, okay, on maybe what you need to do better, or just what you want to work on to develop your good habits as a trader. And so right now, my good habits that I'm trying to just turn into mindless habits that I do no matter what are always keeping stops in place and no early entries, right? No early entries, because that puts you in a bad spot for the whole trade. And so entries are very key. And so those are the two things that I just want to get down, okay? And so that's what I did here. You can see my entries here. I did enter one maybe slightly early, but I entered very small. According to my account, I noted right here I was afraid to push my size up, and I want to talk about how I could have pushed my size up. So I didn't see anything really wrong. This wasn't really too early of an entry. I knew 49.5 could be a big area, and so I simply was going to keep. I entered with two contracts here. You can see at 128, and then once we pulled down towards 50, I entered two more at 112. So I was in a pretty good position. I didn't want to add any more, but I do have room to add with my account here, and this is my biggest problem. It comes down to 49.5. and I'm like, okay, it's not really going anywhere. But sometimes Intel can act like this. And at the same time, SPY was coming down to 319.5. So I said, okay, let's hold. I kept my stop pretty wide down here. And I said, okay, let's hold and see what happens. And boom, right here, you can see these tight-bodied candles start holding above 50. We get a nice little breakup here on the 1 minute, this green candle, and we start saying inside of that candle, right? We get a little fake out here, but then we hold 50. Somewhere in this area, I need to add size. And if you were trading this, this is an area where you should be adding size. You can see on a 5-minute chart, I'm going to pull up this, you can see it a little better. You can see on a 5-minute chart, it's important to always be reading the candles, guys. Read what they're saying, no matter where you have your price levels. Read the candles and what they're saying. So Intel comes down. I'm in a small position, and right here there's a tail candle with a long top tail. So that's telling you that sellers are in control somewhere up in this area. It's not necessarily 50. Maybe it's 50.1. Maybe it's 50.2. That's not the important part. The important part is reading what the candles are doing in real time, regardless of where your levels are. And so you can see we come down and they're clearly holding below some number here. And right here, this is huge. This is where you can see a lot of people added in on the retrace here, and this is where I should have added in. I could have added in double or triple my size on this candle here, simply with a stop below this big reversal candle, right? You close back below that and you're out. You have a really tight risk. And so this is my mistake on this trade. This is what I want to do better is analyze a little better in real time when something like this happens and not be afraid to really push up my size when the probabilities have come into my favor. So you can see on my exits over here, excuse me, I basically took, as we came into this pivot here at 51, I took most of my contracts, and unfortunately I just didn't have a lot of size in the trade, and so I didn't have a lot of other options other than to take most of my profits here. And I just let a trailing stop do the rest, right? And so I ended up getting stopped out over here. I'm really happy with how I played my stops. Right, I kept stops under 49.5, didn't get stopped out. I took profits well, I think, here up into this pivot, and I let the rest trail. I kept using pivots that were made to trail my stop. I wanted to see if we could break high of day. That didn't end up happening, and that's okay, because by trailing my stop, I'm giving it the ability to potentially turn into a nice winning trade. And that's the key. You have to let the system play out for you guys. If you have a system like this, I wish I got bigger. I should have gotten bigger. It's not okay that I didn't get bigger. And that's my rules, right? Maybe that's not how you would have traded it, but that's how I want to trade it. And so that's something I'm looking at for my next trade. And I think, guys, it's really important that no matter how much size you have left, if you think it's the final target, it doesn't matter. Keep a trailing stop. You have to maximize profits. Every once in a while, you're going to get that runner that runs up to 55, 56. And holy cow, you're going to be kicking yourself if you sold the whole position at high of day. So that's a really important thing as well. So yeah, these were my post-market notes. Was afraid to push my size up, basically because the market looked weak. We had a decent down day in the SPYs the other day, the day before this, and so I was a little worried. And that's something that you have to get into that Zen mode, and you have to treat every trade the same. And I didn't, and it's something that all traders are constantly working on, is the control of their emotions, treating every trade the same, and getting big when the setup's there, when it's working for you. So I hope this helps you guys. I know it's pretty short, but I hope it helps you guys to see what you can be looking for in a trade setup. Is this trade like every other trade I take? No. I know it's not. And maybe I can do more of these if you guys like them. I'll see. But this is something real and tangible that you can use, things that you can look for in the market to actually make money, right? This isn't just some bullshit market analysis or someone telling you vaguely what you can be doing better, right? These are real things. And so I hope this helps you guys, and I'll see you in the next one. All right. Thanks for watching. Peace.